And let's bring in our excellent panel of analysts. Corey Lewandowski was the manager of the Trump presidential campaign and the co-author of the huge bestseller, Let Trump Be Trump. Philippe Reines is a former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton, and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt is opinion editor of The Washington Times. And Fox News contributor Byron York is a reporter for The Washington Examiner. Gentlemen, it's great to see all of you. Corey, let's start with you. To me, this seemed like Trump was turning the corner from, the hard-charging, strong, but, it could be a little dark at times. And tonight it was optimism, the sky's the limit, we can do anything for America if we work hard. I saw that turn tonight, which I think is important.
Look what he focused on. He focused on reminding the American people where we were just a year ago, where the economy was and where it is today, with job creation, with unemployment for the Hispanic and black community at record lows, with consumer confidence at record highs. But also, he reminded our country that we still have problems. MS-13 is a problem, and we had victims in the gallery there whose family members were taken by these horrible people, and we have to do better. He talked about what he's done as it relates to getting rid of ISIS. 98% of the territory they covered is now gone. This was supposed to be a generational problem, is what Barack Obama told us. ISIS was a generational problem. In 1 year, 98% of their territory has been taken over. That's a lot less than a generation. It was a very good, positive, forward-looking speech.
Philippe, I thought it was a robust defense of American exceptionalism. The Democrats had a hard time standing at certain parts, which I thought was odd when we talk about African-American unemployment at an unbelievable low. And you can't get Democrats standing for that? I mean, to me, that looks like you're cheering against progress. And that's why I think this new poll that came out tonight is going to put the Democrats upside down. 97%, according to the CBS poll, just came out after the speech, of Republicans rated it well. 43% of Democrats rated it good, and 72% of independents gave it a positive approval. Overall, it was 75 to 25 approving of Trump's speech.
Well, I think what President Trump did tonight was he gave a traditional State of the Union address. And I actually don't mean that as a compliment, and I don't mean it as a
I wouldn't think so, Philippe.
But I don't mean it specifically snarky to President Trump, and I'll tell you why. The man that Corey got to the Republican nomination is not the man who has done it traditionally. He has not left any stone unturned, upended, just smashed. And that has worked for him. The State of the Union, it seems to be the last bastion that he respected as is. And I'll tell you why I think that might not have been the best thing. Your numbers aside, I think what you had tonight was probably, well, I'm not going to pretend to understand the Republican base, probably a lot of people who thought that that was flat. That was not the guy that they loved out there fighting. Well, they liked it. They liked it. But you know what? Never in the history of man has someone said, hey, remember last week when the president said this in the State of the Union address? And they're not going to next week. And I actually think that's a missed opportunity for President Trump, because he's a man who has taken everything, turned it upside down, and made it work for him. He let the State of the Union go as normal, and we're going to forget about it. All due respect to the CBS poll, whoever it is, we're going to forget about it. He could have and should have just been him, because you know what? You guys think he did great.
If he did that, Philippe, you would be trashing him on this panel.
But you know what?
Like, Donald Trump, listen, he was vitriolic, he was acerbic, he was acidic, he didn't bring the country together.
But you love when I go to my crafts fairs with my friends with their coconut juice and the kale.
Gosh, come on.
And we complain about him with our derangement syndrome. But they're not this week going to say, you know what? Are you one of the 43% who liked him? Because I'm changing my mind. It's just
Charlie.
But there is a line, I think, that a lot of people will remember in a week, and that is the one about all Americans are dreamers. And I think that was obviously a very important part of the message he was trying to get across. But my goodness, I mean, looking back at when we were trying to predict how he was going to do this, of course the guy, he's such a great showman. Of course he is going to knock it out of the park in terms of using these props, these people, these American citizens that he brings in, regular, ordinary Americans who do extraordinary things. Whether it was the North Korean guy with the crutches, which was just absolute gut punch.
We should show that.
At the end.
We have that clip. I want to show the clip.
I mean,
we'll show it in a minute.
I mean, and I think that was a very important, obviously a very important part of the message he's trying to sort of put Americans on notice that this is a very serious issue, and that there are real consequences at stake here. But all the other, the cop who adopted the baby from the meth mother, the meth addict, and the soldier who saved his buddy's life. I mean, these are really powerful stories that and we should have known that a showman like this would do a good job.
What I thought was interesting, guys, and Byron, I want to hear from you on this. We just came off of the Grammy Awards, where the celebrity culture was so, incredibly anti-Trump, and everybody feels good by trashing Trump, and that's fine. And then he brings on, which other presidents have done, ordinary heroes. American citizens, or mothers or fathers who he mentioned, who just work hard every day to support their families, and ones who have sadly been brutalized by government failures to enforce our border. And I point to the MS-13 victims in Long Island, and those two families. Of course, I start bawling as I just couldn't hold back the tears watching those families. You don't often see the victims of that type of crime. You see a newspaper short article. But Byron, I'd like you to speak to that, because I thought that for women, especially watching tonight, I thought that was a really powerful testament.
Yeah, he was very effective in using the people that he had invited, and he used actually the two parents who had each lost a daughter to MS-13. He used it basically to introduce his immigration section, which I'm sure enraged a lot of Democrats. One thing that was kind of interesting, the White House had been doing kind of some head fakes during the day about how this was going to be a very unifying speech, and it really wasn't. You could not have a better example of the saying, elections have consequences. The reason Democrats were sitting on their hands during all of this is because it was clear that President Trump was doing exactly the opposite of everything they had hoped to do on taxes, on immigration, on foreign policy, on regulation, on judges, on every single thing. This was a very, very Republican Trump speech, which is why the Republicans were jumping up every 10 seconds, and the Democrats really, really had nothing to cheer.
I will say,
anyone saying that he wasn't Republican enough.
I will say this. All of these speeches are too long. I'm sorry, they should all be cut by 20 minutes, at least. I mean, they could be 50 minutes, 5-0.
And he could have.
Well, it's not like Obama didn't go on and on and on and on. I mean, they're all too long. This is not a partisan comment, Philippe, believe it or not. I'm just making a comment, my friend. This is Nicole Wallace earlier tonight. Corey, this one's for you. Let's watch.
I thought it revealed Donald Trump's deep and almost sort of sad obsession with being liked. I mean, he is always performing for the audience watching.
No, because people who are politicians aren't interested in performing. I'm not sure what politics she's been covering.
Which part did Nicole not like when he talked about the American flag, when he talked about the 12-year-old boy who was going back and remembering the soldiers who didn't have flags at their grave? Was that the part that she didn't like? Did she not like the part that we moved the capital and recognized Jerusalem now? Which part did Nicole actually take exception with? And the answer is there is none, because the message that Donald Trump outlined tonight is the message that he talked about in the campaign, which is we're going to put America first. I know it's a novel idea to some people. I know they'd rather live in another country. I know the members of the mainstream media said they'd promise to move if Donald Trump got elected. Guess what? They're still all here. They're still all getting rich, and they don't love the fact that we have a president who's now proud to call America the greatest country in the world again.
There was a part of the speech that I referenced earlier, Philippe, where the Democrats, it was palpably weird, I'm sorry, that they didn't react. I want to play it. It's the first soundbite on our sheet. Let's watch.
I call upon all of us to set aside our differences, to seek out common ground, and to summon the unity we need to deliver for the people. This is really the key. These are the people we were elected to serve. African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded. And Hispanic American unemployment has also reached the lowest levels in history.
Philippe, the resistance is, obvious in those clips. I mean, they don't recognize him as a legitimate president. Would you concede that he's not a legitimate president? So they're just going to give up on the whole idea of governing. There's not going to be a debate about policy. There's not going to be a debate about, well, if you tweak the tax cut this way, would see 0.7% more GDP in the third quarter. They've dispensed with all of that. They are just not going to govern with the Republicans. That's my sense.
Would
and
you
watching
rather
that
them
reaction.
express their disagreement with him the way some Republican lawmakers did in 2009 to President Obama by getting up and yelling, "You lie"?
Oh, you mean one person, Joe Wilson?
Well,
not the entire.
Believe me,
caucus.
if one person today had yelled, "You lie," we'd have an 18-hour special edition of Laura Ingraham Angle.
But this is a serious point, Philippe. You
there
have
are
the
honest
entire
disagreements.
Congressional Black Caucus sitting down for the lowest African American employment in recorded history. Now, I can see not liking President Trump, but why wouldn't that be something that you would applaud? And my point to you is, they're not afraid of him failing. They're afraid of him succeeding, because that means conservative populism of the Trump variety grows the economy and helps all people.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that the Congressional Black Caucus has a better insight into what's best for blacks than the four of us.
Unemployment, really? Okay.
For us, and that they, in total, do not think that President Trump has been good for their community. I don't think that they are sitting on their hands, as you called it, to make some kind of point to spite their nose on their face. That doesn't make any sense.
Charlie.
I just have a hard time thinking that, this whole notion, and politicians, all politicians do this, but Democrats do it, I think, worse than Republicans do, about dividing people in race and color and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, jobs for everybody is good, whether you're black or white or Hispanic or whatever. Unemployment dropping is a good thing. And so I think that, I just think it's kind of a petty thing to have these guys sitting on their hands, over. So, and in the end, it doesn't matter. I was surprised that there weren't more actual interruptions. But, Trump throughout, and he did this throughout the campaign, it's why he won. And he did it tonight. And he came back to it at the end, where he said that above all else, they are all Americans. And this capital, this city, and this nation belongs to them. And it's strange that that's still a radical idea around here, but it is. And it's why people like him. And it's why people around here don't get why people like him.
Byron, returning power to the people, that was a theme during his campaign. But, it was combative during the campaign, and I've been saying for some time, I know others have written it, that we needed Trump to take that turn to the more optimistic. And I think tonight, and I could pick out 7 or 8 points in this speech where you really started to see that, okay, we're focusing, the prize is for everybody. This is a land of freedom and opportunity, and if you work hard and play by the rules, you will get ahead. And I think it was high time that he made that turn, and I think that's where you might start seeing those numbers go up. You're already starting to see them go up, 43% approval, and his numbers on the economy are now flipped up the right way, according to the Real Clear Politics average. That's good stuff for him.
You're right. It is time for him to make that turn. And, it's interesting. We've been talking about how unhappy and sour the Democrats look during this whole thing. But let's look at the Republicans here. They seem like a pretty happy group, very, very supportive of the president. Earlier in the day, Mitch McConnell had said 2017 was the best year for conservative principles that he had been in Congress. And you mentioned the CBS poll of near unanimous Republican support for this. I think that this speech was also very good for solidifying Republican support. He had it on the Hill, but it's always better to have more. So I think just as you look at the Democratic unhappiness, look at the Republican unity in response to this speech.
Look, the Republicans were really miserable for, years and years during Obama. So it's like, we all have our turn, I guess, being miserable sitting through State of the Union speech.